Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how you can quickly, easily, and rather inexpensively remove scratches from your motorcycle windscreens or your helmet visors. Now, I live in Florida and we get tons of bugs, especially after night. Frankly, some of them have freaking armor on them. This screen gets beat up. Every few years, I put a new screen on it because I don't like having to look through scratches. Same thing goes with helmet visors. If I get a big scratch, if I can't polish it out, or if it's just old, I'm going to replace it. However, if it's in relatively good shape, it's kind of like putting a brand new tire on and getting a nail, you can fix it. And stupid me was walking past the motorcycle the other day with a screwdriver in my hand and I just glazed it. Unfortunately, put a nice little scratch right up in my line of vision. The rest of the windscreen is not ready to be replaced yet. So we're gonna go ahead and fix it. But you could do the entire screen if you really wanted to. Now, this is gonna work for anything from mild to moderate scratches. It's not gonna work for any kind of crack or really a heavy gouge. What we're going to do is simply mess up the rest of the shield around the scratch to bring it down to its level and then fix what we've messed up. We're gonna do that using sandpaper and some metal polish. Now like I said, are many ways to do this. There are specialty products and kits that you can buy specifically to do this. Some are all compound, so you don't have to use sandpaper. But you know what? This is really easy and cheap to do. This is something you can pick up starting from scratch, and I'm gonna show you everything assuming you have nothing with a trip to Walmart for about 35 bucks. So it beats 150 for a windscreen, for example. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna start with is a relatively aggressive sandpaper. This is 800 wet dry. We are only gonna be using it wet. It's gonna be wet at all times. And we do need to pre-soak these. We're gonna put these in a pan of water and let them soak for at least 10 minutes. And then we're gonna keep it wet while we're doing our sanding. Now, the scratch I'm working on, I'll show you in detail in a second here, is fairly mild. I can see it, it's obvious, but it barely drags on my fingernail. It's not what I would call a gouge or a deep scratch. So I'm starting off on the higher side with 800. If yours is more aggressive, if it very easily catches your fingernail, or it's just something that you know, that's a pretty deep scratch, start with 600, okay? It's gonna save you some time because it's gonna be more aggressive and help take down that surrounding area a little faster. This whole procedure, even with me doing the video, it's probably gonna be a half an hour. It might take you 15 or 20 minutes, not including soak time. So after we get done with this, which is basically gonna mess everything up evenly, the scratch is going to be removed because it's gonna be so scratched around it, it all looks the same. Really bad, right? So we'll be done with 800 and we're gonna move on to 2000. This is going to make it look still bad, but it's gonna go from looking very scratched to just cloudy. It's gonna make it a lot smoother. We're not gonna feel like it's gritty, but it's still not gonna be clear, okay? And again, this is only gonna take us a few minutes of hand sanding. 2000 is about the limit that you can get on a physical paper product. Beyond that, you have to go to compounds. Now the next thing up would be what's called rubbing compound, and that's typically used in the automotive field for polishing paint and removing deep scratches and getting out Mars and things like that. You could think of that as kind of like a 2500 grit. We're going beyond that and we're going to what's called metal polish. Comes in many different brands. You can think of this as more of a 3000 or even 3500 grit. It's super fine. It feels smooth in your hand, but believe me, there is very fine abrasive particles in this. For this, we obviously need something powered. You do not want to be trying to do this by hand. It will take you forever. Now you can get one of those little buffing units that goes in your power drill. That's perfectly fine. Just be aware, you must regulate the speed because you cannot go fast when polishing any kind of Lexan or poly glass. It will melt. Heat is your enemy. So if you choose to do that, put it on its lowest speed. If you have something like this Ryobi, where it has two different settings, one for drill, one for driver, put it on driver. keeps it nice and slow, all right? Whatever you do, go very slowly with your compound. We're gonna be using an Orbital Polisher. This was a little over 20 bucks at Walmart. It's gonna work absolutely beautifully, super easy. We don't need anything fancy. We don't need a Porter cable polishing machine. We're just gonna be using a little bit of the edge and applying gentle pressure. And with that metal polish, this is gonna come completely clear in just a few minutes. So let's get started by taking out a sheet or two each of these, and we're gonna soak them in a pan of water. Our papers are nice and soaked. I've got a towel down here just to catch any drippings. If you've got a spritz bottle, go ahead and put some water in it. If not, you're just gonna have to keep redipping your papers. So here you can clearly see the offending scratch. We're just gonna use small circles. We're just gonna sand in the area around the scratch until it disappears and until the entire area looks uniformly scratched. I'm gonna skip ahead and I'll tell you how long it took me. So that took less than a minute. Let's see what we've got. We should have a nice even area of really crappy looking windscreen. What you want to make sure is you don't have any remnant of the original scratch left. And I still see a little bit right down here. Looks good up top. I can't see where it was at all. I've just got a circle and some surrounding scratches. I need to hit it a little bit more right there. A couple more passes should do it. And you can feel it. It has resistance and it pulls when it's actually on the scratch itself. And then it gets a lot easier. Very much like using a clay bar, as a matter of fact. So there we go. Now it feels pretty slick. I don't feel it grabbing anywhere. And that looks good. Okay, now use a clean towel and just wipe it off. Make sure there's no debris. That's just a rock chip. I'm not going to bother with anything else. There's nothing like that other than little impacts like that, which I don't mind. I don't see those at all. So now you can see the evenness of the damage that we caused. Now we're going to move on to the 2000 grit, do the exact same thing, and hit all of the area that we just did. And it's, yes, going to get a little bit larger area, but it's not going to look as bad. It should just look more cloudy and less scratchy. And again, always keep it wet. I'm not applying very much pressure, just enough to keep the paper from skipping around. And I can already feel it getting a lot smoother. It feels just like a clay bar pulling out that first round of gunk. I can feel it's still a little scratchy up at the top. And you can even hear it as it hits the areas that are smoother. And we just want to go until it's even, until you're not feeling any differences in the areas. We want it evenly cloudy. Again, I'm going to skip ahead and I'll tell you how long it took. It's probably only going to take me another minute or two. Okay, there we go. So that was, again, less than a minute. Let's wipe that off. See how we're looking. Again, we want it to look even. You don't want to see remnants of anything. I can't feel anything. Nothing catches my fingernail. It just looks really bad. That's okay. Now it's time for the superfine stuff. Onto the compound. Now, just in the interest of not making a huge mess, I'm stepping down and using my 6-inch polisher instead of the 10. Either one will get the exact same results. I'm just going to be using the outer edges of it here. Slight pressure, just let it do its thing. This is not a high-speed unit by any stretch of the imagination. Just make sure your pad is on evenly. I got to scooch this over just a little bit here. We're going to apply the compound and just work it in. It's going to be a little noisy, so I'll just show you real quick, and I'll fast forward again and tell you exactly how long it takes. We're going to do this until it's perfectly clear. You want to make sure it doesn't go dry, so stop and reapply compound as needed. Should only take a couple of minutes. All right, let's see how it's looking. Well, we're getting there. Still have a A lot of fine scratches and still an area of cloudiness. So we'll keep going a bit. So this project obviously isn't quite going as planned. I don't know if there's something special on this top coat of the windscreen or what, but this is where we're at. I just washed the bike off to get all the crap off. It was very dirty from the various polishes and the wet sanding debris and all that kind of good stuff. You cannot feel a thing. It is completely smooth to the touch, but obviously cloudy, and there are lots of just tiny, tiny micro scratches. And it just won't buff out. So as a last ditch effort, I'm gonna hit it with a heat gun. I'm gonna replace it anyway, so I've got nothing to lose. I'm just gonna go very gently. The risk is it's gonna warp if it gets too hot, but there is a point where everything is going to just slightly gel together. We'll see if it clears up. It's worth a shot since it's going away anyway. Well, that made it even worse. It actually made it cloud up a little bit there at the end. The last time I tried this, it was on a Memphis Shades on our old Harley, and it worked fine. It came out crystal clear. Now this is the optional Yamaha touring windscreen, and as I understand, it's manufactured by National Cycle, which makes a lot of aftermarket screens. So I don't know if there's something different, but I didn't do the procedure any different than the last time. But man, total fail. Anyway, if you've got a windscreen that you're going to replace anyway, it's worth trying. I don't consider the video a fail, even though this particular one didn't work, because the procedure does work at least on some. So, fail of a repair, but hopefully it helps somebody. And hey, if somebody has this screen or they know why this didn't work or this came out the way it did, please let me know. I would be very much interested. So right now I'm gonna wait until Black Friday and hope I can score a deal on another one of these windscreens. Not a big deal since, you know, it's time for one anyway, but would rather have saved the 150 bucks. See you guys next time.